Hello, gentlemen. A 71-year-old man looked me straight in the eyes and asked a question I will never forget. Doctor, can a habit I've had for 50 years suddenly start harming me? He wasn't talking about smoking. He wasn't talking about alcohol. He wasn't talking about his diet. He was talking about masturbation. Not because it caused him pain, not because he had stopped enjoying it, but because something had quietly changed. His erections weren't as firm. Climax didn't feel as satisfying. Sometimes he felt strangely exhausted afterward. And for the first time in his life, he wondered if the way he had always done things was no longer working for the body he has today. If you're over 60, this conversation may answer questions you've never asked anyone, because the truth is surprisingly simple. Masturbation itself is not usually the problem. The problem is that many men continue using the same habits they developed in their 20s, while expecting a body in its 60s or 70s to respond the same way. It doesn't. As we grow older, blood vessels become less flexible, nerves become more sensitive to injury, recovery takes longer, hormones change. The brain processes pleasure differently than it did decades ago. Small habits that never mattered before can suddenly make a noticeable difference. That's why today we're going to talk about 7 common mistakes older men make, mistakes that may quietly reduce sensitivity, interfere with erections, increase frustration, or simply make intimacy less satisfying than it could be. We'll also discuss what you can do instead, because in many cases, small adjustments make a surprisingly big difference. I'm Dr. Claire Morgan, and by the end of this video, you'll understand how to protect both your sexual health and your confidence as you get older. Before we begin, I'd like to ask you something. How old are you, and what country are you watching from today? Leave your answer in the comments below. I always enjoy seeing men from around the world learning together. Now, let's begin with the mistake I see more often than almost any other. Because it doesn't start in the body, it starts in the brain. Many men assume the brain and the body work separately during sexual activity. They don't. Every erection, every sensation, every climax begins with signals inside the brain. And after 60, those signals deserve a little more care than they once did. One habit that quietly interferes with those signals is relying too heavily on constant visual stimulation. The human brain naturally responds to novelty. When it receives an endless stream of highly stimulating images, it gradually adapts. Over time, ordinary touch may not feel quite as exciting as it once did. Some men notice they need increasingly intense stimulation to reach the same level of arousal. Others find that intimacy with a partner feels different, not because anything is wrong with their partner, but because their brain has become accustomed to a level of stimulation that everyday intimacy simply isn't designed to provide. This doesn't happen overnight. It develops gradually. That's why many men never notice it happening. If you've recently felt that pleasure isn't quite as intense, or that you aren't as responsive as you once were, it may be worth giving your brain an opportunity to reconnect with slower, more natural forms of arousal. Sometimes reducing overstimulation for a period of time allows sensitivity to improve. Your brain is remarkably adaptable. Given the chance, it often responds very well. And speaking of habits that seem harmless, there's another one that surprises many older men. It has nothing to do with what you're watching. It has everything to do with where you're sitting. Many men use the bathroom simply because it's private, it's convenient, no interruptions, the door locks. It feels like the easiest place. But sitting for long periods in a hunched position places continuous pressure on the pelvis. After 60, healthy circulation becomes even more important than it was years ago. Good blood flow supports erections, helps nourish the prostate, and keeps surrounding muscles functioning properly. Remaining in a compressed position for extended periods isn't ideal for those tissues. Some men later develop pelvic tightness, mild aching, or discomfort, without ever connecting it to the habits they've repeated for years. Fortunately, the solution is simple. Choose a position that allows your hips and pelvis to remain relaxed. Avoid staying bent forward longer than necessary. Allow your body room to move naturally. Small changes like these often matter far more than people realize. Now, here's something else I've noticed after talking with countless men over the years. Many don't actually enjoy the experience anymore. They rush through it, almost as if they're trying to finish a task before moving on to something else. That might have worked decades ago, but your nervous system changes with age. When everything happens too quickly, your body spends more time in a state of tension than relaxation. Your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tighten. Instead of allowing the nervous system to gradually build arousal, everything becomes mechanical. Many men tell me they climax, yet still don't feel satisfied afterward. They describe feeling strangely empty or even tired. Often, the issue isn't climax itself. It's that the body never had time to fully relax beforehand. Slowing down changes that experience dramatically. Take your time. Breathe normally. Allow your attention to remain on physical sensation instead of rushing toward the finish. For many older men, this simple adjustment makes intimacy feel more natural again. But there's another part of the body that deserves just as much attention, even though most men rarely think about it. And surprisingly, it plays an important role in erections, bladder control, and sexual confidence.
We'll talk about that next.
The muscles I'm talking about are known as the pelvic floor. Most men never hear about them until something goes wrong. But these small muscles support the bladder, help control urination, and play an important role during erections and ejaculation. Like every other muscle in the body, they can become either weak or constantly tense. And surprisingly, both can create problems. One mistake I often see is treating masturbation like a workout instead of a natural experience. Some men grip far more tightly than necessary. Others keep the muscles of the pelvis, thighs, and abdomen clenched throughout the entire process without realizing it. Over time, that unnecessary tension can leave the pelvic floor feeling constantly tight. Instead of helping sexual function, those muscles begin working against it. Some men notice aching deep in the pelvis. Others experience discomfort after ejaculation. Some feel their orgasms becoming less satisfying. The goal isn't force, it's relaxation. Allow the pelvic muscles to stay loose. Avoid squeezing every muscle in your body during climax. A relaxed body usually responds far better than a tense one. And while we're talking about muscles, there's another mistake that becomes increasingly common after retirement. Many men simply become less active. Perhaps work kept you moving for decades. Then one day retirement arrived, and without realizing it, hours of walking, lifting, climbing stairs, and daily movement quietly disappeared. Unfortunately, your reproductive system notices that change too. Healthy erections depend heavily on healthy circulation. Blood vessels need regular activity. The heart needs regular exercise. Muscles need movement. When physical activity declines, sexual function often follows. You don't need to become a marathon runner. A daily walk, light resistance training, simple stretching, even gardening. These everyday activities improve circulation throughout the body, including the tissues responsible for erections. The healthiest older men I've met usually have one thing in common. They keep moving, not because they have to, but because their bodies reward them for it. Now, here's another mistake that rarely gets discussed. Ignoring recovery. When we're younger, our bodies recover incredibly quickly. At 25, you may have felt completely normal within minutes. At 65, your body often appreciates a little more time. Some men become frustrated because they compare today's recovery with what they experienced 40 years ago. But aging doesn't mean something is wrong. It means your body follows a different rhythm. Sleep becomes more important, hydration becomes more important, managing stress becomes more important. Recovery itself becomes part of healthy sexual function. Instead of asking, why don't I recover like I used to? A better question is, what does my body need today? That small shift in thinking removes an enormous amount of unnecessary anxiety. Speaking of anxiety, there's one mistake I believe quietly harms more older men than almost anything else. Constant worry. Many men begin monitoring themselves during intimacy. Is my erection firm enough? Will I finish too quickly? Will I lose it? Am I getting older? Every one of those thoughts pulls your attention away from the experience itself. The brain cannot fully relax while it's busy judging every sensation. Ironically, the harder a man tries to force an erection, the more difficult it often becomes. I've seen this happen countless times. The body is healthy enough, blood flow is adequate, hormones are acceptable, but fear has taken control. Confidence slowly disappears, not because the body failed, but because anxiety never gave it a chance to succeed. If this sounds familiar, remember something important. One difficult experience does not predict the next one. Your body is not a machine. Some days will naturally feel different than others. That's completely normal. Treat yourself with patience instead of criticism. The results are often surprisingly different. Before we continue, I'd love to ask you another question. Which decade are you in today? Your 60s, 70s, or beyond? Let me know in the comments. It's encouraging to see so many men supporting one another through these conversations. Now, let's finish with what may be the biggest mistake of all: trying to solve every concern alone. Embarrassment keeps many men silent. Months become years. Questions never get answered, and small problems gradually become larger ones. Please don't assume every change is just old age. Difficulty with erections, changes in ejaculation, persistent pelvic pain, or reduced sensation can sometimes be linked to conditions that deserve proper evaluation. Diabetes, circulation problems, medication side effects, hormonal changes, prostate conditions. Many of these issues can be identified, and many have practical treatment options. Asking for help is not weakness. It's one of the smartest health decisions a man can make. So let's quickly review. Avoid constantly overstimulating your brain. Don't spend long periods in uncomfortable positions that place unnecessary pressure on the pelvis. Slow down instead of rushing. Keep your pelvic muscles relaxed. Stay physically active. Give your body adequate recovery. And don't let fear or embarrassment keep you from getting answers when something changes. Gentlemen, your sexual health after 60 isn't determined by one habit. It's shaped by hundreds of small decisions you make every day. The encouraging news is that the body continues responding to healthy choices even later in life. I've seen men in their 70s and even their 80s improve confidence, comfort, and sexual satisfaction simply by understanding how their bodies have changed. Growing older does not mean giving up. It means learning to work with your body instead of expecting it to behave like it did decades ago. Thank you for spending these minutes with me today. If you found this discussion helpful, please press the like button so YouTube can share it with more men who may need this information. Subscribe for more evidence-based conversations designed specifically for men's health after 50. Until next time, I'm Dr. Claire Morgan. Take care of yourself because your health is one investment that always deserves your attention.